Having made his debut in Borderlands 1, TK Baha is one of the first residents of Pandora you get to meet. So, for being one of the first crazies to welcome you to the planet, it's time I give you the history of TK Baha. TK Baha, also known as Teddy Baha, is a weapons designer from the world of Isolus. He was married to his wife Marion, and the two loved each other very much. But a constant problem Teddy was facing was in regards to the Hyperion Corporation. Instead of working with him, they were constantly stealing weapon designs he had made. One design they had stolen which they liked very much was TK's Wave. But because this blatant theft could prove to have legal ramifications, Mr. Blake of Hyperion had contacted Teddy telling him that they were sending assassins to his house to kill him and he should leave.
Mr. Baha, we at Hyperion adore your wave rifle design so much that we have decided to appropriate it for ourselves. Our assassins are en route to your home on Isolus. Between us, Mr. Baha, I would suggest leaving the solar system before they arrive.
This threat prompted him and his wife to flee Isolus and find a new planet to inhabit, and this is where they came to Pandora. The two had settled just on the outskirts of the town Firestone. The planet was hostile and lawless, and the conditions were rough, but the two were together, and in the comic series Borderlands Fall of Firestone Issue 2, released in August of 2014, we get a closer look as to what exactly happened with TK. While he and Marion continued to live a decent life on the planet for some time, even making friends with some of the residents like Dr. Zed and Scooter, one day a monstrous skag nicknamed Scar had mauled and killed Marion. As an act of revenge, TK took a sword Marion's father had gifted him and attempted to kill Scar himself. While he was capable of slicing off one of its legs as well as impaling its skull, the skag was much too sturdy. It had caught TK off guard and managed to rip his leg off of him, as well as clawing his eyes, blinding him. Both of these injuries incapacitated TK, and Scar left him there for dead. But obviously he didn't die there. Blinded and losing blood rapidly, he grabbed his wife's corpse and drug it back to their home. To prevent him from dying of his injuries, the doctor of Firestone, Dr. Zed, patched him up and even provided him with a prosthetic leg. After he was better healed, he then buried his wife with the gun he made for her named the Ladyfinger.
Marion got ate by a big-ass skag named Scar. Once I bury her with the Ladyfinger, that cute little gun I made for her, I'll see if I can't get me some revenge. You won't have died for nothing, Marion. I promise you that.
But despite being blinded and missing a leg, TK's rivalry with Scar would result in yet another encounter. However, considering he's significantly more useless, Scar just ate TK's new leg and ran off. This time, Teddy knew he couldn't do anything himself to stop Scar, so he sat on his porch as the days passed by. He even developed a sense of humor about his blindness.
You? One more step and it'll be your last. You should have seen the look on your face.
And this is where the events of Borderlands 1 come in. When 4 new Vault Hunters come to the planet, Dr. Zed points them into the direction of TK as they are in search for the bandit Lord Ninetoes' hideout, and no one knows the land better than TK. While he does assist them in their hunt, TK asks them a favor as they all appear as capable warriors. He asks that they avenge his late wife and get revenge on Scar while simultaneously returning his prosthetic leg that was eaten as well. While in the comic the group do this to gain the information about Ninetoes, in the game this is done as a courtesy. In both iterations, however, Scar is killed, TK's leg is returned to him, and he finally gets some closure. But unfortunately, when Dr. Zed later makes his way to New Haven to treat its residents, TK was left alone, and thus some bandits had raided his house, killing him and tying him upside down to his ceiling fan by his prosthetic leg. When Scooter gets an unanswered phone call from him, he sends you out to his house to check if he's okay, where you see what happened to him. And this would be the death of TK Baha. But in a semi-canon to non-canon aspect of the story, Dr. Zed's brother, Dr. Ned, had been experimenting with bringing the dead back to life, and TK is one of them. In the DLC, The Zombie Island of Dr. Ned, TK appears as yet another NPC, simply questing the Vault Hunters to fetch him brains. However, aside from this, he doesn't do much. After the death of Dr. Ned, zombie TK moved to Hollowed Hollow, a retirement town for the undead, and TK serves as the town's lookout. When the Pumpkin Kingpin begins causing trouble, TK enlists the Vault Hunters to deal with him, which they do, and that's sort of the end of that. The reason zombie TK I'm not confidently calling canon is actually partly because of himself saying so. He has a line saying that he would have gone to Sanctuary with the rest of the Crimson Raiders, but he didn't want to break canon.
So then, after Lilith and all them killed Dr. Ned, I decided I'd come back here to unlive out the rest of my days. Thought about going to Sanctuary with all them Crimson Raider fellas, but I didn't want to mess with canon.
Along with the other lines he has, which are pretty fun facts, are amongst all of the residents TK got to know, Moxie was one of them. And he's wondering if she's asking about him.
Hey, Moxie said anything about me?
He also takes solace in knowing that if bandits hadn't killed him when they did, he'd have just died to Handsome Jack along with the other Firestone residents.
I heard tell that Handsome Jack fella killed a bunch of folks in Firestone. Kinda comforting to know that even if those bandits hadn't got me, I still would have got killed in the end.
Speaking of his death, he has a line during this DLC that being killed was actually a happy moment for him.
I haven't been this happy since that time I got killed.
Personally, I like to think that he was happy because Scar was killed and his wife was avenged, so dying was a way to rejoin her. But perhaps that's a little too poetic for Borderlands. He does technically make an appearance in the Claptastic Voyage DLC in the pre-sequel, but this isn't the real TK Baha. It's Claptrap's cognition of him, more particularly Claptrap's fear of loneliness, which he's projecting in the form of TK. He does give Marion back to him, providing a happy ending in his mind, but once again, this isn't real. TK's legacy, however, would continue to go on. When his niece Una Baha enlists the Vault Hunters to find TK's secret stash, they gather proof that Hyperion was stealing his weapon designs. They send it to her and she becomes a new ally. But for now, that is the history of TK Baha. He may have seemed like a loon, but he's got quite the tragic and sad backstory. But who knows, perhaps Zombie TK is really canon and he'll help out the Vault Hunters in the future. Anyway, if there are any other characters you'd like me to do the history of, then be sure to let me know in the comments below, and until next time, I'll see you in the next video.